Okay, this is going to be all over the place. I am so tired, dude. My eyes, oh my gosh, still, it's relentless. And I kept, as soon as I would doze off, and I was having weird dreams, like really weird dreams. Like, I don't even know how to explain what I was seeing. Like, I don't know. To me, it's just like, I don't know, saying, I don't ever get anything that gives me like something new, like, oh, I didn't see that. No, it's like that they show me stuff that's happening, but in different ways. Like, it's hard to explain. But anyways, there was a few things, like every time I would try and lay back down, once it got to be a certain time, I don't know, they just wake her up and tell her to go wake me up. I don't know what the hell. But it was relentless. And so I feel like, oh man. But so anyways, the things I want to talk about are kind of all over the place, and it's like they just start filling my head, pointing things out. I was like, yeah, and then man, there's so much going on, Like, there's people who caught them going and spraying something over someplace, and then it was all over the people's cars. Everything got fogged in. Like, they're doing this stuff so obvious now. The stuff I've been saying they've been doing, they're just doing it right out in the open, because that's what has to happen. But there's so much about that with the chemicals, and so much. Man, there's just everything. I mean, everything to me is coming to the surface. I mean, Trump stuff, and then Joe showing up in Ohio, and then the whole scene out front with the, I don't know why these people are constantly, I don't want to be seen on camera. Why? Why would you not want to speak directly to people so you couldn't be misquoted? It makes no sense. But they don't want to be on camera because they don't want people to know who the hell they are, because they're not going to be able to walk down the streets because their crimes are going to be exposed. And they're all taking payoffs. And yeah, you may have been pressured into some shit. And you may have been scared for your lives. That's what happens when you deal with the mafia. Now it's all coming out too that not only does the mafia run this place, like when I was saying about garbage and stuff and recycle, I mean, it's a fucking joke. Like, the mafia is like, hey, let's just tell them we'll separate this stuff, and then we'll sell that. The whole scam, like, it's disgusting. But now there's all this stuff coming out about the cartel. I was running everything. All gangsters, I swear to God. But all of this stuff is just going to keep coming out. It's going to be shocking for some people because it's part of their awakening. But for those of us who know this stuff, I don't know. There's another thing that's going to happen. I think that is something that they kept showing me. It's hard to explain, but it's like the same thing with like the energy. Like, one of the things, how Trump, how he had so much energy of so much hate on him. Like, there was so much, and these people just degrading his character, talking so much shit about him, and putting out this whole reflection. Man, that was something that, oh, yeah, the reflection, the poor man. But showing this reflection to the world that isn't accurate about him. And so all that energy, and I think, he did pretty good. I think a lot of us would have went up there and, lost our goddamn minds. And him calling out some fake media and stuff like that. I don't think that was over the top. It was some fucking bullshit, man. And so all that energy that was going in that one direction, now when everything switches, all that hate is going to turn into love. Like, all of that, people are going to see, and they're going to feel so much shame and embarrassment. Like, when they see what he actually does for the people and how much shit he put up with to get us to this point where the corporation ends, that we get freedom and we get to move into this new space, like he went in and dismantled all of this shit for them. But, he's just a spoke in the wheel. He's not the savior. All these people who want to get all into the savior. No, he's a spoke in the wheel. But I give mad respect to somebody who can sit there and just be degraded as their character like that, and to just, hold his head high and stand tall, and you know, because it's going to all flip back, and it's going to be so much adoration for him in the thing. I just see him being so, you know, everybody wanting to see him and talk to him and stuff everywhere he goes, and just, you know, kind of like at those games when all these people would stand up and start singing to him and stuff. Like, it's going to be like that. Oh, and remember when I was saying about we're going into a revival? They're breaking out all over the place. There's one that has been going in some church or some place that has been going, I think, for like a month straight, 24 hours a day or something. It might be 2 weeks. It started at something. I don't remember. Something happened and it started and it hasn't stopped. And now it's broken out into a whole bunch more churches. And it's all over the place. I think there's like 18 revivals going right now in different churches, where the congregation, all the people just go in and it's kind of getting emotional again. As I've seen them, and it is like, just seeing the people, and they're singing like, because you just know, like they're trying to feel that connection. So, and that is the energy that's coming in, you know. That is for sure something that they were definitely showing, this spiritual transformation. But the things are so choppy, I can't even, but they were just like crazy. And so, anyways, I keep getting pulled into these visions of this dream that I can't even explain. So I gotta, but so anyways, so we got all these revivals, we got just one disaster after another happening. Like in California, there was snow on the beach, like it's so absurd. They had a blizzard. There's like 5 feet of snow or something in some places. But that is, when I saw, you know, I mean, when I went on TikTok yesterday, and it was just like storm, Ohio, this, that, like blah, 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 blah. It was just like, man. And then when they started saying that there was, I saw one where it was like this giant storm is headed, and it showed like the map, or the thing was showing the cyclone coming or whatever it is, this giant storm that was coming in to hit California. I was like, oh, this is it. If this storm doesn't do severe damage, like, you know, and who knows if it's going to take like a couple of weeks, but I know this is going to start, like the earthquake, it's going to start some stuff. I mean, it's going to start. And how much do these people have to endure before it just goes? You know what I mean? It's like, God damn. They've got floods again. Where did I also see some place where it was like you wouldn't expect it to be flooded at all? Oh man, I can't even think. There's so many disasters everywhere, so many different things going on, and all of it is picking up speed because everybody's got to wake up. Everybody's got, like, this is your push to deal with your shit. And this is the thing is I have so many things. Okay, so one of the things is, so when I, because I have to relate it to my own story, that's how I can see what's happening, is because it happened already to me. And so when I very first started waking up and stuff like that, and because this just keeps coming on my mind, because it was, so in 2009, then I got the brain injury. Then I was leaving that one relationship, and then this other person came in, oh, Madeline, Mom, and all that stuff. And so, you know, I wasn't going to even start a relationship. But anyways, it led to, you know, my lowest point of my life. And so one of the things is, so I painted another painting yesterday, this one. And so that one, she's painting over here. We got a whole art thing. It's like the whole thing. We got all this art going all over the place, a big mess. But so I did this one yesterday. Now I just decided, okay, so now I'm doing a series of flowers. And I think that my focus is perspective, because the next one that comes into my mind is a bunch of littler ones. But the thing when I was doing them, I was like, fuck, am I channeling Georgia O'Keeffe, or what the hell is going on? And so with these flowers. And so I was like, man, it was so strange. Like I can see, like I can understand, and I can see how it shows like the female, it's like the creation is like all things coming out of it. Like I don't know how, but it also is like the female anatomy, and it's like the birth of all things. And so it is it's very much at the blossom. Like not all flowers, because some of them have that other kind of thing, but the ones that bloom out, that open up like that, when you go in, it's so much like that female anatomy. And so I was doing it, and this morning I'm sitting there being like, man, my Georgia O'Keeffe on my mind. And then so then I was like, oh, what is this telling me? Like, there's a reason, there's a meaning. And so then I went back and I started thinking about these different series, when I was like, okay, so I'm gonna start this series on these flowers. And I was like, okay, so my last series I had flowers, but I had birds and flowers. So I was going through these series that I had done, thinking about the things, and thinking about how they related to in my life at the time. And so in that last relationship, where it was the end of that, the end of times for that, whatever I had going. And so when that relationship was going on, I had a tattoo shop, and I was painting all the time, and I had paintings up. And I swear to God, like anybody who paints, like you get totally just obsessed. You can lose a whole day just sitting there painting and painting and painting. It's crazy. You get just absorbed. It becomes your reality. And so I had the tattoo shop, but see, I couldn't work because of the brain injury. And I was going through all this battle with the all sorts of stuff and everything. And but they wouldn't let me work, and it just became like I just had to go with the flow at some point. I couldn't keep fighting, and it was just one door after another. It kept closing. But when I had gotten together with him, I was still working, but I knew something was wrong. I knew I was messing up. And I wasn't getting any help with the medical. And so I had to keep, figuring it out, because I was like, man, I don't want to kill some patient. I was messing up, man. And I was like, oh, I couldn't, my brain was like just a giant fog. I couldn't think. It was crazy. And so then when they said that I couldn't work anymore. And so then once they said I couldn't work, I had no way to have a shop or anything. And I had tried a whole bunch of things. Like I was doing all sorts of stuff. Like I was making things, was doing all sorts of things, and going to things and selling them. Like I use the time always. I started making things right away, immediately. I don't know, if you're somebody who likes to create, you just can't be stagnant. Like you can't just sit there and do nothing. So I was making all that stuff, but then when I started having all these people asking me to do tattoos on them, and then my brother was like, well, you should open a tattoo shop. Well, I couldn't, not everybody could understand the obstacles that were in front of me once the government had said you can't work anymore. And then and I was a licensed person, so there's another control. They hover over me. And then even they started threatening me with the license, and if they found out that I was working while I had a brain injury, that they were going to charge me. And I was like, I was so freaked out about the investigation. And but then when I had talked to somebody, they said they're so short-staffed And so I just stopped doing my license. I was just like, okay, I'm just letting it go. And I'm sure the hell not gonna start fighting them. Jesus Christ, to start. It could go in any old hospital I worked at. Oh, this person died. It was her. Let's put it on her. It's like they're always looking for a scapegoat every fucking where. So the when I was there though, and I had the shop, I was doing all these Day of the Dead paintings, all tons of them, and a whole series of Day of the Dead paintings. And then when I look at that now, it's like, oh my gosh, it was like the end of something. It definitely was. It's so crazy when you get ahead of something, you look back and you put together all the signs and you see what was around you and what you weren't looking at, what you were looking at. And you know, that's why I say, like, the signs are all around you when you start paying attention. It's crazy. But so then I was doing all of these Day of the Dead, and it was like the end of that relationship, and it was my dependence. You know, I had no independence. I was dependent on this person who, you know, was not my match at all. And it was, there were so many issues and even in the, you know, there was a point, because even when we had the shop, you know, he just would not stop. Like, nothing would go right. Like, he would not stop. All he wanted to do was go in, and because it was a hair place and a tattoo shop, and we rented space to all these people, and he just would go in and harass people, harass them. He just was like so in his ego and being a boss. And even he, you know, he one of his big episodes, and he decided he's going to go counseling. He's really going to figure his shit out. As soon as he started counseling, no, he needs me to go in. It's like, okay, you need a scapegoat again because you can't face yourself. So yeah, let's pull me in. And even when the counselor and I were both telling him the same thing, back off, leave the shop alone, let me do the shop. He couldn't do it. And then when he got all into this, wanting to flip houses, and that was a huge investment. I took out a fucking huge loan on that for him, so he could do that, because he was so into, like, oh, he just wanted to be an entrepreneur. He was so into being a boss. He'll focus on that. He won't focus on the shop. It's like within a few months we were already done. Like, the whole thing was over. But, you know, it's still 6 years of ridiculousness. Me constantly trying to appease him so that I have this cover, you know, like I have, because I wasn't supposed to drive, I wasn't supposed to work. It was like everything was flipped upside down in my life. and my lawyer, now, to know how shady she was and how hard she was pushing. Like, she wanted me to be, you know, sitting there on the couch with drool hanging out of my mouth or something, you know, because that was going to make her case or something. I don't know. But it's all just fucking shady shit. But when I look at that and I think about that series of doing that Day of the Dead, and then how everything ended, and then after it ended, though, I got really sick. And that's what I was talking about yesterday, I think, when I cut myself off, when I was saying about the healing myself, because and how people can heal themselves, because it was the Hep C thing is really what showed me. Like, I had those other sicknesses, and seeing I'd healed myself. I didn't go to the doctor, didn't get medicine or anything. But once they told me I had Hep C, and knowing how serious it is, like, as a nurse, knowing what, and when she told me, I mean, I totally blew my mind. Because when she told me that I had the antibodies, I was like, well, I probably got the thing. And she said, there's not one for that. And I was like, well, I'm sure I got a Hep. And she was like, no, that's, I think A and B. That's not C. And so then I was like, well, I don't know. Like, if I got, and she goes, well, it's very rare, but it looks like you got it, and then you just healed yourself. And I was like, I got it, and then I just healed myself? And she goes, yeah. And I go, so that was the only way I could get those? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, huh, okay. And then you start thinking like, well, fuck, man, that is sick. And I know when I thought I was dying, you know, when I was so sick. And so after the split up, so I'm doing the Day of the Dead, and my whole life is just falling apart. I mean, my life is trying to move me in another direction, and I was holding on to it, like, no, please keep me here. I'm too scared. I need this person, you know, like. And then the letting go, but I didn't let go. I got shoved off, and I was constantly using this like metaphor. It was like I was on this merry-go-round in my life, my whole life, just going on this same circle, round and round and round, and all of a sudden somebody just pushed me off, and it was like I fell down, and it hurt. Yeah, it really hurt. And then it was like all my patterns and cycles. I had to face them all. There was no getting away from it. And so then, you know, I had to start doing all of that healing and facing, you know, all of that stuff. And it was hard. And I got so sick. I was mentally sick. I was, at first I was very mentally and emotionally sick. That was when I went into the dark night, and it was that horrible winter, and it started right when he left, because that was the first thing that hurt my feelings, was how much it was snowing. It was like fucking halfway at my house, and he didn't even come over one time and say, you know, here, I'll shovel for you. Like, he knew I had to shovel. Like, I had to shovel like 3 times a day. It was so fucking, because I lived in the city, and you have to keep the sidewalks clear. And so then, and it was good exercise and stuff, but anyways, it hurt my feelings, because I kept thinking, you know, a husband who really cared about their wife would say, hey, you know, let me come over and shovel. I was like, so I had to really face, like, this person just didn't really care about me. And then so much was coming out about him flirting with my daughters and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, look at what you will put up with. Like, you have to sit there and ask yourself, why? And so you go through all this hard, you know, facing all of these parts of yourself, like these weak, dependent, you know, parts of yourself that you don't want to think exist, but they do. And, you know, and then that's what leads you to all of this pain. But that's where you have to release it, you know, it's part of the journey. And so the, when I went through the emotional, and then I started having physical. I started getting super sick, and it was all in where it would be your lower chakra. It was all in the like sacral root area. And this is still at this point, I didn't know about chakras. I didn't know about energy. I didn't know about holding our energy down in the trauma base. That's where you hold all your trauma, and how it affects your reproductive and your GI, and all these people who have so many issues with those things. And so it's all, and it's so crazy because it all leads to this, I know it's just totally dripping out. I'm like, it's like a fucking Arctic blast here, for one thing. It's fucked, and it's cold, and it's just like, my nose won't quit dripping, and it makes it so raw. It was like a fucking kindergartner or something. So anyways, then going into that part of the emotional part, I'm like purging out and really facing myself, got me into the next step, where it was like all this really dark stuff. And so it was all in this root area. I was having so many issues. And it was also at the end of my sexcapades. And my last ones were very, just very awkward and uncomfortable, and just like, what am I doing here? Like, what is this? This is so yuck. And there was some other aspects to that I can see now, how they played out, and the effect of my, like, it's so crazy when you get further ahead and you look back, how you see like, oh, this was meaning this, and this. Like, there was so many things, but it's definitely some TMI shit there. And so it very much, though, was a lot of stuff that was coming to the surface that I didn't see it coming. That's for sure. And I got super physically sick, and it started with this last sexcapade thing. I thought like I was injured or something. Like the whole thing, like I don't want to say it all on here, but, you know, and that was my body telling me, this isn't your thing. You need to stop. This isn't what you want to do anymore. And you're not going to find yourself here. And so then, and it's so much a part of our society, you know, like, I'm telling you, people would talk about a fucking one-night stand before they would talk about masturbation. And we talk about, you know, it's totally acceptable dinner talk tables, your Tinder date or and stuff like that. Like, it's so different than when I was growing up. Like, man, so different. Like, if you even sex came into your mind, oh, you better go in there, you better pray to the Jesus, oh, get it out of your head, you're gonna turn it, you're going to hell, you're gonna go to hell. It's like, oh, it's so different. Now it's just like, sit down, tell me, did you take it up your ass? Well, it's like, what? The stuff on the shows, I'm really, you know, the stuff on TV, it just blows my fucking mind. Like, this shit, So anyways, back to my, the thing. So I was, at that time when I was going through that, and I was having all of that, so much pain and stuff down in there, and I was sick, and I know I had tenderness over my liver, and I was getting all these tests, like, but they definitely weren't testing for antibodies. It was weird how all of a sudden she said, well, we're doing this now for all the people in your age because there's an epidemic of people who have it. And, well, I bet you there's a lot of people who have it who are healing themselves, who are taking care of themselves, because it has to do with taking care of yourselves. Is how you heal yourself. It has to do with caring about yourself. That's how your body heals. It doesn't have to do, I mean, you could go in there and sit every day and, you know, like, imagine your tumor is shrinking and stuff like that. But it also has to do, because I didn't even know I was healing myself. I wasn't sitting there thinking, I thought I was fucking dying. I thought they can't figure this shit out. It's like, man, they disappointed me time and time again. You know, this is all we got is this. This is our medical. And so I was going in there and they're running all these tests, and I kept being, and now, you know, I'm on Medicare. And so then it's like, you got to wait for this, wait for that, get sent over here. And then you have these huge co-pays. It's like free to go to your PCP, but then you go to see a specialist, which, you know, you get sent out for a specialist for every motherfucking thing, and it's $40 each time. And so then, and I was, you know, changing my whole money thing at that time too. I mean, I was completely just on my own, and I'm having to pay all this fucking medical stuff constantly. I'm going in and trying to get this stuff, and I'm just getting sicker and sicker. I couldn't walk. I was just laying on the couch all day, and I was like moaning, like I was just so sick. I couldn't believe it. It's like I felt like everything from the lower part of me was just breaking, and it's like on fire inside of me. I was like, oh, it was horrible. And then, you know, they kept looking, and then they're like, well, it can't be this because you don't have anything inside you. We took all those parts out. That's when we gave you the brain injury, remember? It's like, oh, well, maybe it's phantom pains or something. Like, something's going on. Something is causing me so much pain. And I was like going to pharmacies, trying to ask doctors, like about, or pharmacists about my meds, because that's when they just kept putting me on another one, 18 meds. And so I was taking him, and he was like, you're going to get a GI bleed or something. Like, these are really bad to have these mixed. 3 different ones are going to cause you severe problems. And then I started having these severe problems. My nurse practitioner was telling me, no, it's not that. As I said it directly, and she's like, no. And she's like, you just got to take it, blah, 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 this way, that way, whatever. And just getting sicker. Then finally got in to get that colonoscopy, which was the worst experience. Like, that, every experience, like what I'm seeing with people, like just going in and talking about all these horrible experiences, like that's what I was going through. It was like one after another. It's not like I just turned on Western medicine just because I just felt like it. It wasn't like they did one thing to me. It was like one thing after another after another. It was like the whole system was blowing up in my life, and it wasn't for other people. And so nobody can understand, you know, when I'm sitting here saying stuff. It's just like, okay, well, you know, it's part of the, you know, it's just like, don't complain. And so don't expect more. And now, fucking doctors, all they are is drug dealers. That's all they are. So many people are even saying, the doctor won't even see them if they won't take medicine. And I already knew that was headed that way. And that's the whole thing. It's just going to come more to the surface. These people are not there for our health. We are the only ones for our health. And so then when they sent me to get that colonoscopy, and then they said that I had the colitis, see, that's what motivated me to go off all the meds. That is where I became so frustrated. And so I went off of all of the meds. I weaned myself. I was determined. I was like, I don't give a fuck. And I get spasms all the time. I've got a couple of spasms from sleeping on the couch, because that was one of the big things where they started me on it, was the spasms for my scoliosis and the migraines. Well, you have to take these. You're not being very adult about this. You can't just go around if you. So, and then you've got emotional problems. You've got this problem. You got side effects. You need this pill, that pill. And I was like, fuck this. And so, that's when I went off of them. And, I didn't have anything. And that's when my daughter was like, got me the weed candies, I think. I know I started out with the hard candies, and it was like, ugh, I felt like I was doing acid or something. It was totally tripping me out. And then I did that RSO too, and that's when I did trip out. That's when I did go to the other realm and all of that stuff. That was so cool. Like, I was having a lot of really cool experiences all through this awakening. I was so on my own. I was so isolated. Nobody was getting to enjoy them with me. When I talk about them, people would just be like, you're high. No, I'm not. I'm not high. Like, that is not what's happening here. But you couldn't get people to see. But it was like, oh my God, it was really cool. I was having a lot of really cool things. Just like that one day when I'm sitting there at the table, and it was so weird, because I was driving in the car. I could feel the wind. And I was having this whole thing thinking about, like, while I was in the car, I was thinking about everything going on. And then all of a sudden I was just sitting at the table and everybody's talking and stuff. And I'm like, what are we doing? And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, weren't we just in the car? Like, what is happening? I'm like, no, we've just been sitting here. I was like, oh my God, what in the hell? And so it was like really opening me up to, not being so bound into this reality. And so it was like, lifting the fingers of my grasp on this reality, where I was just like, letting go, here we go. And it was really fucking cool. But, I didn't have anybody to experience it with. And so when I went through that part, see, that was when I really started taking control of my health, my direction of me. And so then I just started going off of those and started, that's around then, I think, it was like I had to go to a certain part of me. Like, I had to raise my vibration to a certain degree or heal a certain amount of things for the next thing to happen. Each time, there's always been going through something, then something will happen to take you into the next part. And I think it was in there somewhere is when I got triggered by this person. It was the strangest thing. It was just another strange thing. I was having so many, and that was like, oh my gosh, I got so many things to tell about that. Like, I've got fucking journals about that. And so that whole thing was a whole nother level that I had never experienced. And I'd never experienced somebody coming and talking to me before I'd met them. Like, that was like really trippy. Like, it was a whole weird thing. How they kept coming in my dreams and stuff. And we would have these encounters and these meetings. And there was this whole, oh my God, it was so crazy. And so then, I was having all of these like crazy things that were going on. And I was trying to think that is when I started painting like the shadow people and Mother. So I got more into like angel, like these like, I don't know, it was like this series where I have like Mother Nature, uh, like protectors, angels, and stuff like that. So I did that series then. It was during that time. And so that was kind of like opening my mind or something into this spiritual realm as being so much a part of our world or something. I'm not sure. But then I went into the, after that one is when I started the bird series. That's the one I'm trying to get to, is because when I got here, and I started doing all these birds. And I had a lot of birds with flowers and stuff, but I was just like doing birds like crazy. And I had never done them before. And I was just really getting into them. Like I was really like sit there, like really getting in the detail, and was trying to do them really super realistic, some of them. And like I was doing all different things with these birds. And I didn't really think anything about it. I was just really into it, really into like their whole thing. And then I started seeing where people were talking about when you start transforming and stuff, like birds and butterflies will start being everywhere. My whole house started feeling like when I did the decorating for this house, I've got birds everywhere. I've got angels everywhere. Everything has wings. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was doing this Day of the Dead. I was doing this just death. Just everything was dying around me. My life, my identity, my relationships, everything was decaying. And it was represented in these paintings I was doing. But then there was this whole other life to come from that. So it's like the death card, like the transformation card, like something's ending and something's beginning. And so I was like, whoa, that is so trippy. Because then when I started here and I was at this certain phase of my healing, it started being birds. I was coming out. I was going to, and that was right when I was, because it was when quarantine closed down, because I got all this whole series ready for all these art shows I was going to do. 2020. I had, it seems like I had 6 months of shows. And I had to wait 1.5 years on the waiting list. And I had 6 months of shows, I'm pretty sure. And then quarantine happened. I had just taken my paintings in and got them all hung up at this first place. And quarantine happened. And then, so everything closed down. And then I ended up having to take them. And then all of the whole thing, just, all of those shows that I had been waiting. I had done all these paintings and was all ready for this. I was like, this is my year. I'm going to be... I'm moved. I'm going to be really claiming my art and going out there and just really, going for it. It was like this new me. I'd left my relationship. I'd healed. I'd started doing all this spiritual work on myself. And I'd come and I got this little place I had bought for the first house where I bought it totally by myself. And it was just like all these things were transforming in my life. And then all these birds, and that is all representative of claiming your freedom and flying and stuff, and flying yourself. Like, it was exactly what was going on in my life. And I didn't know that when I was painting them. So now when I was painting these, and, and I was sitting here thinking, man, that's so crazy how, I didn't start painting them intending but then when you start painting, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much, like a woman's anatomy. And then, I was like, okay, so either I'm channeling Georgia O'Keeffe, who's just, she really wants to paint some more, or if somebody's trying to tell me something. And so what the message was to me is this new respect that we're going into for the creation of life. And I've talked about this divine feminine and divine masculine, and I talked about it's so crazy during this time that we have all these women who are out there angry and yelling, cutting all their hair off, going, just going all masculine, and then so angry and wanting, they're so confused, like they want the government up in their business. And they're angry at men, they hate men, and men are just sick of women and their phony bullshit and all of this stuff that, that's the real division. That's the real concerning division. is the masculine feminine. That's where it's all based on. Like, that's our first initial balance that we need to come into with respect to one another's roles. And so, and that is what is happening like right now. Like, there's a huge, and it's playing out on, I don't know, on all social media. It's definitely playing out on TikTok. But the you know, it's kind of like claiming yourself. Like, you got to claim yourself. You got to notice your role, and you got to start healing your stuff so that you can then start healing those other relationships. But you can't go into it and be like, well, I'm going to heal the relationship with this person. Just like when my ex was like, you know, I'm not going to work on myself. Let's just go in and work. No, guys, you have to work on yourself. Nothing is going to be fixed in your life until you own it, claim it, empower yourself, and try and fix it. Like, do what you can do to make your life better. Don't just surrender your life over to chaos and tragedy, and, you know, it's out of your hands or something. It's all in your hands. It's your perspective that needs to change. And so the what it was that they were showing me was this. This is what's growing out of all this stuff. Like, we have all this tragedy, all this horrible stuff going on. I mean, so many things happening all at once. And it's been building and building and building. And, you know, everybody's tense and everybody's scared and stuff like that. And, you know, all of these things are happening to, you know, pull the rug out from under people. Just like for me, push them off the merry-go-round. You're too comfortable in the cesspool. Get the hell out. You know, get uncomfortable for a minute. And so then, so everybody's being pushed into this uncomfortable time so that they can, you know, figure out, like, you gotta go inside and look at things more deeper. And so, while we're going through all this transformation, though, that is bringing up this divine feminine energy, even in men. See, the men have to come into balance with their feminine energy. And you can't go out of balance into perversion and like, I'm just going to go wear a dress. No, it's got to go into this coming into balance with yourself. Fine, if you want to wear a dress, but it's not going to, that is not going to be finding your balance. If you want to find your balance, you have to own it. And so you have to get in touch with your nurturing side, with your emotional side, with these sides of you that is representative in the feminine. But you have that inside of you. And if you're not feeling in balance with both sides, then there's something that needs work. There's something in there. And so, you know, you need to be able to pull in both to be able to go back and forth like a steering wheel. Turn right or turn left. And you have to stay going in the middle. It's like the same thing when you're balancing your feminine and masculine. You can't just go all lean one way or you're going to go that direction. You have to keep it going in the middle. Keep steering it back and forth. Okay, I gotta be nurturing here. I gotta be a little rougher here. You gotta keep going back and forth to find, because you aren't just one thing. And you can't just rely on one thing. You have to be both things. And so men have to get uncomfortable and feel what it feels like to, there's a lot of things that men have been cut off from in society. And it has caused, you know, problems in their relationships. And so it is something that each individual man, see, we can't just heal it as a whole. Each individual man has to go in and do his trauma, his work, and, you know, claim himself and love himself and be in touch with himself and feel his stuff and know what he needs and know how to give it to himself, not be dependent on someone else giving him what he needs. Just like all of us, we all need to be that way. As women, we also need to be able to give ourselves what we need, not be dependent on somebody else coming and make me feel better. To know ourselves, know our bodies, know our psyche, know our emotions, know everything about us, so that you know everything about yourself and you can accept yourself. You are a true reflection when you're really putting yourself out there. If you're not really putting yourself out there, who are you putting out there? You know, who are you representing? Are you representing what everybody else wants you to be? You know, are you representing what Uncle Tom had said you need to be? Or, you know, that ex you had in the 5th grade, or your best friend in the 9th grade? You know, like, Who are you trying to please? So many people are constantly trying to please their parents with this illusion that somehow they could have got their parents to love them more if they would have been different. The only reason anyone's parents didn't love them enough was because the parents had issues and couldn't love themselves, so how could they love anybody else? They were looking, a lot of older parents, that they were looking to try and make like a happy family and stuff. They didn't know how complicated that relationships and stuff were. Things got so much more complicated as we have grown and as we have begun to demand more things from ourselves in relationships. And so, we are expanding. And so back then, there's a lot of women who had babies because it made them feel good. My mom said, like, she just loved having little babies. It was like having a little doll. And, so, and then, but then the doll grows up and has needs, and then it becomes complicated, and then you're pushed into not knowing what to do, and maybe you do some shitty things like slap them in the face and stuff, and then, you have to deal with your anger and your lack of patience and why you're frustrated. And see, that's where it always goes back, because that's how you were treated. You were treated that way, and that's how it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And it is those of us who stop the system, but we don't just stop it individually. Just like I said, my daughter, when she went and did that Reiki thing, and they said that she was this whole thing about her healing this genetic line or whatever, and you want to sit there and think, no, it's me. But when I go in and I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, I mean, she was giving me so much direction. She was always, I can totally see like that role in her. I mean, so that is where it isn't just one person or whatever. It's all of us together, healing and coming together and respecting other people and stuff. And so, and that's going to be the huge transformation. But, what they were kind of showing me is like that this is the feminine in blossom right now. It's the feminine. Like when I kept saying, like, we have this whole decaying world that's falling down around us, but we have this beautiful little flower growing up out of the dirt underneath, and so everything is falling down, but there's something growing inside. And so what they were showing me is like right now it's blossoming. It's just like it's coming out, and it is going to be this huge shift in that feminine, masculine energy. And we're already watching it shift, but it's going to be that where for so long, the feminine has been masqueraded, has been made small, been disassociated and stuff. It's just been so like mistreated. Like, man, when I go by, it was really standing out to me when I was watching these movies especially go back and watch movies in the 30s and 40s. Oh my God. Women are constantly just hysterical. Like they don't even fucking think for themselves. They're just screaming all the time. Men are always like talking firm to them, telling them what they need to do, like they're little kids and stuff. And, it's just, there really has been, I just saw something yesterday. It was just a little thing, but it all just melts in together. But something about like these skull and bones and all of the mason, all of those, this really toxic masculine energy that wanted to keep the feminine energy away. It's so much like in that movie Mother too, where the God that is represented, he's just such an ego-driven, oh my God, he's just disgusting. He's their God. And how abusive that he is to Mother Nature, who is the Jennifer Lawrence person. And it is the way it has been to the feminine. The feminine has just been kind of abused or something. And so it's going to have this switch where all of a sudden we're moving into that energy where the feminine is appreciated and respected. And that is going to bring so much balance into our relationships and stuff for men, because men have been raised to not respect women and to look at them this certain way. And a lot of men have had crappy moms because moms didn't know how to, like, there's all this whole thing, like, you got to be a mom, you got to be this certain person, you got to be perfect. And there's so many moms that come into my comments and stuff. So many moms are frustrated and being disregarded by their kids. Like, I mean, it's a thing. It's what's going on right now as all this stuff is coming to the surface. Is this, it's just this disregard, for this feminine energy, for the nurturer, for the mom, for the family, for this whole thing, and we're at this time of war and masculine and it's all going to blow up. And what's left underneath is this beautiful flower and bloom is coming out that is going to change everything. And we're going to go into this time of just nurturing and love and respect for one another. And we got to go through these traumas to get there, sadly. But, that's how the universe works. It's the cycles. It's the cycles of life. And you can see things did get too easy and too soft. And another thing that is interesting too, I saw this guy the other day, and he was a light-skinned guy. Yeah, he was a light-skinned guy. And he was talking about, he was in, I can't remember what city, I think. It seems like he was from the suburbs. And then they were going for like the high school trip or something. All the high schools were going to the thing. Like when I was a kid, it was Six Flags. We were in Dallas. So we all went to Six Flags. All this, like the amusement park opens up for all the school kids. And it's like all school kids that day. There could be families and stuff too. I mean, there's parents and stuff that come. But anyways, it was something like that, I think, that he said. And he was saying that when he went, him and all his friends, all these kids from the suburbs and stuff, they were all like really young and kind of, wee geeky like kids. And he said, and then all these kids came from the inner city, and he said they were like fucking men. He said they were like full-on grown-ups. And he said it was so weird. And but he said, so what the thing is when you go through trauma and stuff, it clicks in to make certain things grow faster. Like, it makes you tougher. It makes you start getting these adult kind of hormones earlier and sooner or something. So it totally changes your like your metabolic system or something, stress, to make you become more of an adult sooner or something, which I thought that was kind of interesting, because even when I was talking to my daughter about some of this stuff, and about things that kids aren't allowed to do and are allowed and stuff like that, so much of that is coming to the surface right now with, kids can go in and say, hey, chop off my penis, 5 years old, and after their teachers have, talked them into it. Some of these conversations are ridiculous, like so ridiculous. Like, you're putting man, it's just, I don't understand how some of these people are just like they are bots. They're bought and paid for, I don't understand why, but are they privy to the agenda? Are they just this ignorant? They just do what they're told? Like, I don't know. But you got all these kids, this kind of stuff, and taking kids away from parents, and then saying that they're not supportive of their transitioning, and like, it's fucking mental. But it's bringing so much to the surface about, they can't drink, they can't do this, they can't get a tattoo, but they can go and do that. And so I had been thinking about that, and then thinking about, when my daughter's like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that if you're 17. And I was like, yeah, but not every 17-year-old is the same. Like, there's some that have been through stuff that are older. And that went right along with what that guy was saying. I was like, that is so true. It really is. And that is what, in society, like what we're going through right now, is that we all became just these weak, soft, dependent, sickly people, We forgot who we were. We had to be pushed into doing something more. We had to be pushed into remembering who we were. And so we could live in our power, not live like how I was living. I needed that. Like, it was hard. It was painful. It hurt. But I needed it. I'm so glad. Oh my God, I can't even imagine if I was still living that life. And it was so hard to leave it, so hard to leave my dysfunctional patterns and stuff, but it was so necessary. And as the thing is that people don't realize, like, just let go of this stuff. I know it's so hard. And it's so hard because you're so convinced, like, that you have control and stuff, and you don't. You're just sitting there bashing your head up against the wall trying to control stuff you have no control over. Which, by the way, I don't. This cut thing hurts so bad. I was like putting alcohol, aloe vera, castor oil, everything. I don't know what the hell happened. It's like a lump too, and a big cut. I was like, man, did I have like a fingernail? Like, I cut myself at night? Did Stella come over and try and, like, I would have a big bruise if it would have been her foot. I would probably have it more in my eye too. So I was like, maybe I cut it with my own fingernail. Like, I don't know. It hurts like hell, but look at all this growth now. And I am doing, I just ordered another oil that's a bunch of mix of natural oils, but just still with the biotin, and trying to keep my phone out of my face. Like, I really am keeping it out of my face. Maybe an hour or two a day is the most. Well, this is an hour already. But then also there's this one where you take rice and cloves and water. I'm pretty sure it was water. And you boil it. And I just had clove powder. Regular cloves would be better because mine's too thick, because you can put it in a spray bottle. So you do the cloves and the rice, and then you drain that out, and you just take the water and you put it and you spray it. It smells good too. And you just spray it on your hair, and you spray it there. And then also the rosemary oil, or you can use that as water too. You just get a bunch of rosemary and then you infuse it into water or oil. And like, I've had mine infusing for a couple months now. It gets more potent, but then you take that oil, rosemary oil is what they put in like Rogaine and stuff. And so I even put it on my eyebrows, and my eyelashes, I'm sure, are affected too. My eyelashes, everything is falling out, but at least there's some growing back now. So that made me feel so much happier, even though it's all growing back super white. Whatever, I don't care. But another thing that was interesting too, and then I'll go, is so I saw this lady, she does these face readings all the time. Like, she'll go in and read people's faces. And so she was talking about gurus and highly, like, monks and highly spiritual people have these certain indentures that she said always you find them. And the faces that she was showing them all on were all men. And so I was in the bathroom. I was like, okay. So you have, it's the temples sink in. And I can see where my temples sink in. So your temples sink in. And she said it was something from thought going inside or something. So your temples sink in. I don't remember how she explained it. And then right here where your third eye is, she said it sinks in right there. And so I kept trying to look, in the mirror, trying to see, if it sinks in. And I was like, I'm sure it sinks in. And then right here, this lump thing. That's where my dad hit me in the face with the chair. So I have this, I don't know, scar tissue spot here, across here. And so I don't know if that is making it sink in, like look like that. But anyways, like, they put all those men up there. I was like, no, we need some women up there. There's some highly spiritual women out here too. So anyways, those are your things to look at. The sinking in on your temples and your here. I just thought that was so interesting. It sinks in from your thoughts going inside. It's like sucks it in like a vacuum or something. But it's important to go inside for a lot of reasons, more than I can even explain, because how things really work are so hard to explain. But going in is where all your answers are, being out is where all your distractions are. It's where all the confusion lies. But it's why you come in here, so you can go through the confusion, so you can really understand who you are. And oh, and I saw this other thing too, where somebody was saying that it's we should never be saying we're coming here to learn a because we are already know everything, we're already perfect or whatever. And I think it's about like it's an expansion. It isn't like you're always learning who you are. It isn't learning, it's learning who you are. It's learning about what you are, who you are, and seeing yourself, because that is what shows you who you are. When you can see yourself interacting, then you can see like who you are. You can go in and you can feel then how you affect others. Like there's a whole thing about it, and it's expansion, and it's not because you have to, it's because you want to. You want to. It's like we're energy out in this fucking out in the world, and we want to experience ourselves, so we create this. And then you get the people, I hate it, it's horrible, it's so hard, it's so mean, it's so this, it's so that. It's like, well, we create this so we can go in and experience and see. I mean, life is the life we create. So life is only the life that exists, is the one we create. It isn't beyond what we think it is. Like, we think it's something else, but all it is this creation that we create. And then there's this disrespect for it and stuff. And it is so, it's like the power of the universe, of the expansion of all things. Like, it isn't just like a punishment and stuff, you know. It is, everybody comes here because they want to come here. Everybody does this because they want to do it. Even, you know, these babies that come in, you know, are just eating right off the bat. Like, you know, they come for that. It's not like they were being born for something different. And I don't even know if they have got it some kind of way that they're just birthing beings with no soul. I don't think you can birth anything without a soul. Like, you have to have an energy pack or it wouldn't be alive. So there has to be something that energizes it. There's another thing too where I saw, and this could be a Dolores Cannon thing, that this person was talking about, that, and she didn't call them not NPCs, she called them something else, but like an NPC. And she was saying like some of them are here just like as props. They're not. And that there's this whole thing, and I don't remember if it was her saying it or somebody else, but that let's see, the props, the going in and oh man, just totally went out of there. Because they were if I can see it. Oh, Allison Coe put on a thing today. I started to watch it, and I was like, oh, I'll watch this, but I was like, man, I've already got so many things to talk about, like with this transformation was happening, and about the healing and stuff, and just knowing like you could heal physical things. Like when I was going through all that healing, somewhere in there, I healed myself from Hep C without ever even knowing I had it. That is where, you know, we can heal so much stuff. So don't get all caught up in like, oh, I've got liver cancer now, I've got this, I've got that. Because all of that stuff is, that's the focus on this fakeness, the other world that tricks you into thinking you're sick and stuff. Like if I would have known I had Hep C, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Like that's the only thing I knew of it. You die. Or you, and not everybody can take the shots and live, but there's these super expensive shots when there's no fucking way Medicare would have paid for it. But you go to prison, they'll pay for it. But, oh, and another thing, that was what, too, the fentanyl thing. So, one of the things is it doesn't damage organs. That's the good news. Doesn't damage organs. So that is where they can take all of these ones that, all these ODs, you know, luckily for them. Yeah. Just the right drug at the right time, huh? Just perfect timing. Perfect timing to expose more of the corruption, all the corruption that just keeps coming out and coming out and coming out. It's all what it's all about. And then every time something affects you is to remember this is your opportunity to heal, to go in deep, figure out. It always leads back to you, not liking yourself, everything is about hiding from yourself. And so using this time is a time of growth, is a time of expansion to heal and to face yourself. So it's learning, you're here to learn, but it's not in the same capacity as what, hearing how that was said kind of made me think of the same thing as like thinking that there's a God over you that's going to condemn you to hell if you don't say his name or something. Like it's stuff like that. So anyways, I just wanted to say that other thing because always I end it and then it's later and it's like, oh my gosh, because I totally forgot to say that about the hep C thing and healing myself, and I'd left that off and went off on some other thing. I do that all the time. I know I do, but it was something else. I don't know. It must not matter because it's not coming back in there. But anyways, that just keep working on your stuff, and that's all you can really do. I mean, there's just, we're in the midst of it, all this chaos, and just keep knowing that when it does turn, it's gonna turn, and you'll know, all of a sudden it will be like Trump's worship. You'll know, like, oh, we're going the other direction. Like, things have turned. Like, there's going to be obvious things that we're going to know. Like, to me, censorship is going to be a big one to me. Because all of a sudden, my videos will be heard and seen or whatever. It's going to be very different. So there's going to be, significant impact, and just as impactful. Oh, this was, okay, I'm really going to go after this one. This woman was all upset yesterday that I'd seen. And she was talking about like all the stuff going on and what's really happening. And so then she said, how are you going to feel or something like that when you all of a sudden realize that the people who were screaming at you, telling you all that hateful stuff and hated you and you should die and stuff, that they were the target. That was the target. And then that is who we're watching be killed right now. Does that make you feel any different? It's like, yeah, see, that's the thing. That's why you don't go in and argue with people. You got to just use that phrase, for they know not what they do, for they know not what they do. It's very impactful. It's one of those little gifts Jesus gave, that's where I heard it from the Bible. It's they know not what they do. You got to keep that in mind. Don't react to somebody doesn't even know what the hell they're doing or what they're talking about, because then you've gone in and you've shown yourself you've got anger, you've got control issues, you've got all your fear and stuff. Those are being brought up for you at that time when you're feeling like you have to react to this other person. But I'm not saying that those people were the target. It was definitely the target audience would definitely be the most people not paying attention that we can wipe out the quickest. Hell yeah. But no, we are all the target. Like, there wasn't just one certain group. It is like there would be the leftovers, there would be the weeding system, the funneling system over and over and over. First to go would be the ones that are the easiest, the weakest, the not paying attention. And they did that systematically for a lot of years, getting people dependent on the medical and unhealthy, overweight, losing all confidence in themselves, losing self-esteem. So, they were successful in that. And then get everybody to that point. And the people have to turn around and pull themselves up by their bootstrings and start loving themselves to get themselves out of this hole. Everything can be turned around in no time, but the people have to go in and take charge of their lives. And that's the huge transformation is happening, is for that to be each individual person to say like, oh, I can do better, I am better, I want better. And that's the whole thing. and I'm just completely lost. I think I didn't even finish saying what I was saying. So anyways, I need more sleep. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.